we are going to talk all about fitness. So talking about getting back into those routines, everything that has been changing over the last 6 months, and kind of getting back into that, as well as being able to balance that with your lifestyle, work, and maintaining that mental fitness and mental health. It is Jess, your life and transition coach through your inner vitality. And today I have a really special guest, Jenny Greensmith. Thank you so much for coming today.
So excited, very excited.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So you have a company called Best You. And giving, a little detail on Jenny, she is a certified personal trainer, has a master's degree in health and exercise psychology, also an undergrad in kinesiology, and you've been teaching classes, fitness classes specifically, for 11 years now, and I know that's how you and I met way back in the day.
Yeah.
You do competitive coaching, you are a super mom of 2, and a wife. So I feel like you're hitting all those pain points that parents are feeling right now. And I would love to chat more with you about all of this.
Awesome. Yes. So thank you. Thank you for having me. This is my passion. This is my favorite thing to talk about. So I'm super excited to be here. I think the conversation that we have today is different than a conversation we would have had 8 months ago, right? Our world has totally shifted. So our view on everything, including exercise and healthy behaviors, is different than it was. So I'm really excited to bring some context and some discussion to the table today. So thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I know I gave an introduction. How did you get into the industry? You're passionate about it, which is awesome. How did you get into it?
Yes, I'm very passionate about it. This is my thing, right? Everybody has their thing. Yeah. Fitness and supporting others through their behavior change and their health and fitness is my heart, is my passion. So I grew up as a competitive synchronized swimmer, actually. So I've kind of been involved in fitness my whole entire life, and have continued within the sport coaching my daughter. Which is really exciting, which is great. So I've been coaching for a very long time, an athlete for a very long time, and fitness has always been of interest to me. I've had other careers and other things, but I'm always drawn back to fitness, and I'm always drawn back to supporting others, because I know, and I've seen it in myself and my clients, what an impact exercise, and specifically exercise, not even speaking of some of the other health behaviors, but specifically exercise can have on one's health and one's self-perception and one's mental health. And it's so important that it is my goal to bring it to as many people as I can successfully, because I know it's not easy. But I also know there are ways to get into it and for people to be successful. So that's kind of where I started and what my goal is in my journey.
Yeah. Well, I've had some great questions come through, which, you and I have been able to chat a little bit tonight on and over the last couple of weeks. And I thought you would be the best person to kind of help some of these individuals with these really great questions and kind of guide them through it over our conversation today. So where would you like to start when it comes to fitness and our mental health and routines and balancing our worlds?
I think I'll start with, as I said, the conversation that we're going to have today is different than the conversation would have had 8 months ago. So when I personally, in my business, when I work with clients, and I work in groups and I work in individual one-on-ones. My business is online. So it's been, it's worked out well during this time. But what we focus on and has just come to the top so quickly is mental health. And the support. So I'm a huge advocate of mental health and using exercise to support mental health. Of course, the physical benefits that come along with it, the physical changes that, come with time. But what we focus on is coping and how to use exercise to help cope in a time like this and to support mental health right now. We know that exercise reduces depression, anxiety, negative self-image, negative mood, all of those things. We've known that for a really long time in the research world. And now is the time that we can really use exercise as a way to cope during this time. It also decreases social isolation. which is huge right now, right? So
Yeah.
it looks different than it used to, right? We used to potentially go for group walks or go to the gym or, you know, whatever it is, whatever your journey is for exercise. There's a million different ways to do it. We've just had to get creative in finding ways to make it happen, because it is that initial step is the hardest for people that aren't necessarily exercisers at this point in time. Just that opening that door and starting is very challenging, you know. But once you get into it and you see those benefits and you feel those benefits from a mental health perspective and from a coping perspective, then, you know, it does get easier.
I love that you brought some space to that, because I even think for people who may have been on amazing routines and journeys in the past with their fitness, you know, and when it does stop, starting it again is just as challenging as if you're coming into it brand new and never done it before. So a question that I'm curious, what are some ways that you've been able to pivot and you know, for your clients in a time like this? Because now maybe people aren't comfortable maybe going to a gym setting or being in that social setting that they had in the past. What are you finding that is working right now for individuals?
So what I've done for my business that has worked really well is, so people join exercise, you know, for whatever their goal is, whatever their reason is, but they stay for the community. They stay for the community, they stay for the connection. So what we've been able to create is this, like, yes, we exercise, but we are so supportive of each other. And I am so supportive of what's going on in people's lives, respectfully so, of course, you know, but finding that balance that we are humans too. We are people and we are going through this. We are not sugarcoating it. We are, you know, we are struggling. People are struggling right now. So having the space to have that conversation, I think what's really important to understand, so there's kind of two thoughts here, whether you were a previous exerciser and, you know, trying or struggling to get back or finding creative ways to get back, or never having exercised before. There's kind of two different thoughts, though similar. For those people that were exercising and have taken time off and, you know, haven't been doing anything, what I always encourage them to do is the day that they get back into it, whatever that looks like, it's not going to be where you left off. It's not gonna, right? You didn't, the last 6-7 months happened, right? So people sometimes get discouraged and they think that they can start where they left off, which isn't the case. So I always encourage people, and this is for people that have potentially never exercised too, you need to give yourself some grace and understanding of where you are. My coaching philosophy is small lifestyle changes. I don't coach fad diets. I don't coach any of those things. We talk about drinking more water. We talk about incorporating an extra glass of water in your day or an extra vegetable. Like, we look at smaller lifestyle changes, because those big giant leaps, those fad diets, research shows that they do not work. Unfortunately, that's you know, if you're looking for that quick fix, you may get it, but give it another few months, and unfortunately that quick fix is usually gone. So we spend a lot of time looking at lifestyle or lifestyle changes for that. And that being said, that's almost the introduction to exercise as well. Give yourself a little bit of grace and time, and let's set those goals and what they look like. If you have never exercised, or you're getting back to exercise and your goal is a marathon, you know, let's give that a little bit of time to build up to that, just so we can be successful. We can be successful.
Yeah. And I think with that too, when you're talking about, it's like being able to celebrate the little wins, I think is so important. You know, having that extra cup of water, or the fact that you actually did go out for that walk, or I even think it, you know, it can go as far back as taking the first steps to getting, say, registered for a virtual class even. That's a success. And that's also something that could be very new for people. And that part itself could also be daunting, is getting stuff like that prepared and ready and registering for that stuff. And, you know, especially when they do things that are new. And I guess a question with that is, and I feel like you would really have seen this over the last 6 months, is people that are doing stuff that's new that they have never done before out of their comfort zone. What are your thoughts on that stuff?
So touching on a couple things that you said there, yes to celebrating the small baby steps. If at this point in time it's walking for 5 minutes, then that's where we start.
Yeah.
And then you feel successful in walking your 5 minutes, right? That is a success, and that is huge. So wherever you are on your journey, that's where we start. If you are looking for more than that, of course, we balance and find what that is. But celebrating that 5-minute win, win. And the other piece I want to touch on before I answer your question too is I want to touch on one of the barriers that is most often cited. So we have lots of barriers right now. And what we want to do is eliminate those barriers. So as you said, signing up, having running shoes, having dinner made so you can get to your class. We look at all those little things that could impact you from being successful.
Yeah.
So looking at those barriers. But the biggest barrier, based on research and based on what I hear back to me, based on my experience, is time. We don't have enough time. Now that is real. That is for sure real. But the thing is, it's also known as a perceived barrier. So what that means is we perceive that we don't have enough time. So in our mind, it is a true thing. I don't have time. There's no way that I can fit this exercise in. But that's why the word perceived is often in front of it. Because when we break it down and start to look at some strategies on how you can find that time, even if it's just 5 minutes, then I have yet to find somebody who doesn't have just a few minutes a day to make time for that. So that's why if you're feeling that you don't have time, very, very common. And even more so now because we're very overwhelmed. We are very overwhelmed with homeschooling or, whatever it is, with your dog, your kids, just new sports that take longer, or they're doing homework at school, or whatever it is, we're working from home, we're cleaning our home and everybody lives in it. So it's dirty 30 seconds later, right? Like we are very overwhelmed with life right now. So even more so important to squeeze in that exercise to manage some of that overwhelm, and finding that time and working with me or someone or yourself to really break it down and ensure that you can find that time as one of the biggest barriers to success for sure. And you had a second part to your question, Jess, and I forget what the second part to your question was.
Well, I'll go back to that in a second too, but I do agree. You are hitting the nail on the head when it even comes to our followers today that are watching us, because doing the surveys and getting that back from them, time is one of the biggest barriers for them right now. And I think we were talking about, oh dear, what were we talking about?
I know, we went off, it was my fault. I went off on a tangent.
But that's what's great about having these enriched conversations.
It'll come back to us.
I think it will. Sorry, guys. This is, you're just going to follow the breadcrumbs to all of the really great stuff as we keep going along, right? So tell me a little bit then, what was that about? Well, okay, we're going to keep moving on. So where else did you want to take us when it comes to, we talked about, we wanted to address mental health, we wanted to address routines, and also, I guess, this perceived time barrier, being able to juggle that with work and school and other demands that are happening right now.
One other thing that I want to bring up, and it is the reason why I chose to call my fitness Best You, because it is really, at this point in time, being the best you. Because what we focus a lot on is your best is enough. Your best, and I use that all the time. Your best is enough. So right now there is so much turmoil. The mental stress right now of going to the grocery store with a mask on, and your kids, if you have children, the stress that they're going through and managing that stress. What we always encourage and what we talk about in our community and what we do amongst each other is your best is enough. And each person is on their own journey. You cannot compare your journey to anybody else's journey, because nobody else is walking the same journey as you are. And nobody else is you. Nobody is managing stress the way that you manage stress, right? Everybody manages it a different way. So it's really about finding you as yourself and showing up to be the best version of you. And we do that through increasing our self-efficacy through exercise, increasing our self-esteem through exercise, decreasing our anxiety, decreasing our depression through exercise. And the thing that is working well too with this community is all of the classes that we choose to do for my business are 30 minutes. Because people often feel overwhelmed, to go back to the time, jumping around a bit here, but people often feel overwhelmed with trying to find that hour, but feel that it's much more possible to find half an hour. And let me tell you, we can get a really good solid workout in 30 minutes. We do not need an hour. We are sweating pretty hard. All that being said, joking aside, we do take it wherever your level is. And that's the best thing about this. But I just want to encourage you at home, if you are listening, that if you are feeling that stress, that overwhelm that the world is feeling right now, first of all, you're not alone. There are many, many people feeling that way. And exercise is a way to help manage some of that and help to cope in this situation. We find that time just for you to really reconnect and be yourself for that 30 minutes of time before you have to join back with the rest of the world, or whatever that looks like.
Actually, something I used to always tell my clients and people who worked out in the gym is that workouts are like your own natural happy pill. It naturally increases your endorphins, which is, a really great way to kind of kick those, negative thoughts in the mood. That's why you feel so good after a workout, or it also feels a little bit addictive because you're like, I want more of that because it felt so good.
So good.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I can attest that, working out, and even just like you said, a 30-minute workout from where you started in the beginning when you didn't probably even want to go to that workout at that time until the very end, and how you felt afterwards is 360 for sure when it comes to that.
And one thing that I encourage people to do, wherever you are in your journey, so social support is one of the biggest predictors of physical activity behavior. So having some level of social support. So whether you have somebody that you can, if walking is your thing, which by the way, I always am a strong believer in walking. I'm a big believer in walking. It's a great, great, great exercise. Having that person that you can connect with, or, make a plan with, that you're going to meet at 11 a.m. for a walk on this day. You have that buddy that you're going to meet, which is very important to help with, following through. Now, that being said, in a time such as this, choose your buddies wisely, because if you're both on the fence and you're both easily swayed away from exercise, and as soon as one can easily sway the other away, right? So that is a risk to pick your buddy wisely to ensure that person is going to keep you accountable. And the other piece that's really hard right now is you can find exercise programs on YouTube, right? You can search up exercise programs. That being said, there's some good ones and some not so good ones out there for sure. And there's a whole psychology behind all of that. But I really encourage you to find somebody such as myself or someone else that is a coach to you that can encourage you, because there is a lot that comes along with having somebody to keep you accountable and to train you through proper exercise programs. I'm a stickler on technique because that's important to me, because I want you to continue to show up and continue to, journey through your exercise. So I'm a stickler for technique. So if you don't feel that you would be able to sit down, put on a YouTube video and follow it successfully and hard for that amount of time, then I really encourage you to find somewhere a level of support to encourage you through this, because it's tough, right? Exercise is a tough thing. As wonderful as it feels, exercise is a tough thing. So having somebody to help you on your journey, a motivator, somebody who's knowledgeable in the area, whatever it is to keep you moving forward, because it's very easy to fall off track often, especially with so much going on.
And when it's invisible and you have no accountability to it, there is that scenario too that nobody will know. So it's okay if you didn't get your workout in, or if you cut out after 2 minutes and we're like, forget it. I was sweating too much, or it's just been a hard day.
Yeah. So right. And one point you just said right there, sweating so much. So for a new exerciser, perhaps somebody that hasn't done exercise before, the feeling of sweat and muscle discomfort can be very distressing to a non-exerciser. They might not, for those that are regular exercisers, may take that for granted. They actually love the sweat. They love the sore muscles. You know, it feels like they had a good workout. But for those that aren't necessarily exercisers, they, not always, but some don't necessarily like that feeling. So it's really becoming aware that that's an okay feeling, that sweat and warm body and increased heart rate are okay feelings, you know, that's part of the journey of exercise. So just being aware of that too, when you are that new exerciser, you know, those are okay, of course, within reason, you know, safe muscle soreness is what I'm speaking of. But those are okay feelings for sure. But you are 100% on the, if nobody's watching, you know, and that leads to, we could talk here forever, Jess, that leads to, you know, decreasing self-efficacy when you feel that you're failing, when you feel that you are, I can't do this. This is too hard. I don't like this, all of those things. So self-efficacy is your situation-specific self-confidence to perform that behavior. So your behavior, self-efficacy for that physical activity is decreasing every time you have one of those, I don't want to say failures, but, you know, lack of
setbacks.
Success. Setbacks. That's a great one.
And I think that's that, you know, that self-serving fallacy where it's like, you know, you're not good enough, or you can't do this, or you're going to fail. You know, it's almost, sometimes when we're doing this alone, it can be tough, and we can fall into the negative mindset and say, yeah, see, look, I couldn't do it. And it's, then you go into the next one of like the all or nothing fallacy, where it's like, you know what, it didn't work, so I'm done. And they're not willing, or they have a hard time celebrating that small win of just starting it that day. And, or the fact that, you know, they woke up the next day and they can't even move because maybe they did overdo it. And that happens to the best of us, but then they're like, that's it, I'm done, I can't do it, you know, and they miss a couple of days of working out, and then that's it.
Yes to all of those things. Yes to all of those things. It's so common, and just so important, you know, if you are thinking of starting out, you know, make that small plan. You want to, you know where you want to go, but that's not where you're going to start, right? You're going to start here, and you're going to make a plan to get where you want to go. You can't get to where you want to go on day one. You need to give yourself some grace and some time to get yourself to that place. And if you don't know where to start, obviously you can reach out to me as a coach, but put on your running shoes and go for a 5-minute walk. Put on your running shoes and go for a 5-minute walk.
Yeah. You may actually surprise yourself and actually do 10 minutes.
You might, right. If you feel great, right? Keep going.
Keep going.
Keep going.
There's a couple things that I've been picking up during this conversation. You talk about a plan, you talk about goals. So I almost feel like there's a bigger picture here at work when you are working with your clients. And it's not just about day by day, but here's like the bigger picture of what you're working towards and kind of knowing what that is. I don't know if you wanted to speak to that at all today or not.
Yeah, sure. We can, there's different goals. There's short-term goals. There's, you know, when you want to accomplish a certain amount, there's that long-term goal, whatever that is for you. I personally, as I coach, I don't coach through calorie counting or weight loss. Yes, can certainly be a goal, but we look at the accomplishments of holding a plank for 5 extra seconds, or going up that extra set of stairs, or I felt great, I slept better. Because when you're starting to look at your goals, I'm going to be honest, if the weight loss is a goal, because that is often a goal for people, it is often discouraging because it takes a long time. It takes longer than, the feelings of greatness and the endorphins, as you spoke of, So we want to look at those long-term goals and have those kind of in the back of our mind. But if your only focus is weight loss, you're much more likely to drop out of your exercise program and not sustain it. You may keep it for a little bit, you know, but then the long-term sustainability of that is very, very low, because it does take a really long time for that to happen. Other things within your body start to happen before that in many cases. So we also look at process successes, you know, like showing up, like that's a success, or
the win.
it's a win. You know, we look at all of those things with perhaps that long-term goal in the distance, and we keep our eye on it, but we certainly want to celebrate some of those successes. We have I'm just starting this now with my community. We have a little brag board, and you know, I held my plank for 10 extra seconds, or I did a push-up on my toes, or I walked for 5 minutes, or wherever you are in your journey, to celebrate all of those things with each other, because it's very important.
I think that brings you right back down to that buddy system component, having someone to be able to celebrate the wins with. And I do think, you know, with the surveys that we've done in the past, one of the reasons, actually a high ranking on that, was the social component that came with fitness. That's one thing that they really do value. So in a time like this, when change has happened, it doesn't mean you still have to do this alone. It could still be a buddy system. It just may look different.
And that's what everything with regards to my business, and I use it too, is pivot, not panic. We're pivoting, we're not panicking.
Yeah.
The world.
Well, and I think that, you know, when you talk of panic, I think because then now you're not thinking rationally, right? And then so your emotions will start to blur, and I think that's just the roller coaster of it all there too for you.
Yeah, and certainly, you know, it is a very acknowledging. It's a very stressful time. You know, there is all of those things, but what we try to do, as you said too, as your happy place, this time as a group, when we come together virtually, such as this, is, and members have told me, my clients have told me over and over and over again, that it is 30 minutes, because our classes are 30 minutes, where everything else, you know, is pushed aside, and you're almost in a little bubble of yourself. And I always encourage, this is your time. This is your workout. This is your journey. Let's use this 30 minutes that we have together, and then you can go back into your world.
You know, I think there's something there that I also like, and I think is important to kind of reiterate, is giving themselves that time. You know, who is it that they need to communicate with to maybe help protect that time? So those people, that buddy system may not necessarily even be the person you're working out with, but the person who may watch the kids or take the dog for the walk, or, you know what, be okay that you're going to be stomping in the room next door because you're working out and they're still sleeping, because you've kind of communicated that, setting yourself up for that success, making sure you have that space to work out in, and, you know, the people that need to know are there so that you're not having to set yourself up for those failures. Given too that I also think in that component is, I don't think sometimes it's always going to be perfect. You know, if you have technology issues, right? Or, you know, the dog does decide that during your meditation, they're going to lick your face, and, you know.
Happens all the time, all the time.
See, and that's so good to hear, you know,
Yeah.
because some people may not want to do it or get involved because they're like, I'm going to be the person in the class, that virtual class, that's going to have their kids running through the room as it happens.
Oh, we had that happen today. So here's the thing. We do put, you know, we have the mute option, which is lovely because it doesn't distract the rest, but that is life, and that is life at home right now. And that is a really good point, because that's one of the things about working out at home in your living room, right? You have the dog, you have the cat crawling all over, you have the kids screaming, right? Like, but, and again, I come back to giving yourself permission, you know, to have that time that's yours. And that's really important, because we often, women or men, don't necessarily prioritize ourselves, right? As a mom, as a dad, as a parent, as a spouse, as whoever, we are very often putting ourselves a little bit lower on the totem pole. So we spend a lot of time talking about that and reminding ourselves that, you know, to show up to be our best to show up to be our best selves, we have to give to ourselves a little bit. We have to give time to ourselves a little bit. So we talk about that basket of laundry might wait, and it's going to be okay, right? For that 30 minutes while you come in. And what you also touched on there too, Jess, and again, here we go for full circle, is reducing the barriers. So reducing all of those things that could potentially get in your way from showing up, trying to identify what those could be and planning for those. planning for if they do happen, we will do this. If they do happen, I will do this. So there's lots of pieces that go into setting this exercise piece up for success, for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There was something you had just said there, and I went, oh, I'd love to repeat it. Oh, I think there's a lot of value in saying it aloud, saying, I give myself permission. Like sometimes I think we even need to hear ourselves say that to ourselves, to be okay in that moment and be present and allow ourselves to be fully a part of that moment. And I often think of a pitcher of water, you know, as family, spouse, somebody who's in the workforce in such a different environment right now. You could even be a frontline worker or a teacher. You know, you can only pour so much water out of your pitcher before you've got to refill it. And this is what I think we're all talking about right now. That what you do, what I do, is about filling up that pitcher so you can continue to give and contribute to all those elements in your life that are so important to you. But if you don't keep yourself topped up and taken care of, you've got nothing else to give to people.
I have a lot of people that were trying to dump from empty pitchers, give from empty pitchers.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that's when, you know, that's when the mental health starts to really struggle too. So I couldn't agree more, and always encouraging and getting whoever it is on board. Like my husband, for example, both he and I, exercise is a really high priority in our life. You know, it's our relationship, our children, and exercise, you know, of course, but both of us really respect that that's an important part of our day, for both of us to mentally release and for both of us to have that time. So we help each other, support each other to prioritize that time. His time, you know, I make sure that he gets that time, and he makes sure that I get my time, because we both show up in a better way when that happens. So exactly as you said, that's another barrier we have. Prioritizing it. Exercise needs to be you need to prioritize it, or it will likely get pushed aside. So prioritizing that time to allow you to refill your pitcher or whatever that is for you is very important.
So we've talked about a buddy system. We talked about accountability, maybe even planning and goal setting for yourself. And you did mention, like, first thing you can do is just get your shoes on and go out for a walk for 5 minutes. Doesn't take any resources really. What are some other things that people can do to get started in their routine very quickly and easily?
I always, it depends where you are. I always start with the walking, because really you just need a pair of shoes, right? You need a pair of shoes. Exercise can be done in a lot of different ways that doesn't necessarily require resources. How I choose to run my business is, once again, you're at home, you need an internet connection. And, you know, as being part of the program, but you don't need equipment, right? There's so many creative ways to get into exercise. I encourage you to find something that you like, because then it doesn't necessarily become exercise or more of a challenge. Like if you really like to walk, go for that walk. If you really like to bike, then biking is your thing. Don't try and do a Zumba class if you hate Zumba, you know, for example. Find the things, because everybody's different. Find the things that bring you joy, that challenge you, of course, but that you actually enjoy doing. That's another important component. So that's one less barrier that you can eliminate from the process, for sure.
I think there's a lot of things that we could say that we enjoy doing, but we've kind of forgotten about them. So I think that could be even a good challenge, is like, what are some of the things that you've enjoyed doing in the past? And, make it new again, bring it out, refresh it.
Absolutely. The other thing that I always encourage people to do is, there's two different things. There's exercise, and I speak of two different things: exercise and active living. So both are different, and both are important components of our day. So active living is that movement of your body throughout the day. So standing every 15 minutes. You know, you hear these things all the time: park further away, take the stairs. Like, you hear all those things. And I don't necessarily talk about that as an exercise perspective, but I talk about that as an active living perspective. So even if you start from the active living perspective, just to get more movement in your body, just to move our bodies more. That's another great place to start if you've never started an exercise journey before. So don't pick all of the things that we're suggesting here, you and I. Start with something. Start with one thing. Start with parking further away at the grocery store. There it is. There's the win, right? Number one. Do it. And then you start to add a couple more after that. But don't tackle it all at once.
Could I ask you now, for some people who may not be familiar with, say, virtual fitness classes or virtual personal training, how does that work for an individual? Because maybe that process of that is new to them and could also be a barrier. Maybe you can shed some light on that. Yeah,
I think we've jumped far ahead in our virtual world in the last 6 months, faster than we had ever moved before.
Yeah.
So how I do it is I do personal training one-on-one, exactly like you and I are doing right now. But obviously you would be exercising and I would be coaching you and encouraging you and leading you through a program this way. So I would check your technique. I would teach you through the screen. So we would do all of the things from here. And when we do a group class, it's exactly like this, but with more people on the screen. And it's a program for everybody to follow. Lots of different options. Because everybody is at a different place in their journey. So no one ever, through my program, ever needs to worry about where they are in their journey, whether they're a brand new exerciser or an elite athlete. I have both within my program, and I can easily support all exercise levels within the classes. So we do yoga classes this way. We do strength and cardio classes. We even do spin classes if you have a spin bike at home. So there's so many different options. Cool. Variety is so important. And again, I coach you through the screen. So it's a lot of fun. The members, although they've never met, as I said before, all know what's going on, and they all chit chat via Zoom before the class and at the end of the class, just to see what's going on. So it's lovely.
Yeah. And could you try out a class and just do per class, or do you usually have them commit? I guess is another question.
Yep. So it's a monthly subscription program. So it works similar as a gym would work. You just pay a monthly fee to be part of the program. You can cancel anytime. Whenever the time is right for you. Fortunately, I have a very strong membership. People are really continuing because we have, as I said, people come for the exercise and stay for the community and stay for the results that they're seeing, both physically and mentally. What it is offered is you can try a couple classes. You can try 2 classes for free, because I want you to get a sense of whether that's for you or not, because I don't want you to sign up for something and realize it's not for you. So I want people to come and give it a go and realize, wow, I can do this. I got this. And Jenny's going to encourage me all the way through, and then hop on board after that. Yeah.
It's a good way to be like, test it out, see how your body responds, and then do it again.
And do it again. Exactly. And I will follow back up to make sure. And that's the other thing. As a coach, when somebody misses a workout, I follow up respectfully. What's going on? Are you okay? What happened today? Let's talk about what, kept you from coming today. And in a very respectful way, we chat about strategies just to ensure that you can get to the classes.
And that's the caring component of it too, right? And I think the accountability component, sometimes, you're there for the tough love, and then you're also there to celebrate and be there in moments that are tough. And let's face it, there's been a lot of ebbs and flows over the last, half year that we've been in this. And having that person kind of being that cheerleader during those times is hugely impactful. I can tell and I test for that, both in your industry as well as in mine.
Mm-hmm. I like what you said there, tough love, because there is some tough love in the class. I'm going to be honest. In a very fun way, of course. But then there's a huge caring component, because for my business, from the bottom of my heart, I want people to be successful. I want you to feel great. I want you to have a space, and because it feels great when you get to that place that exercise is fun.
Now, stay tuned, everybody, because I will make sure that you have all your contact information for Jenny. But before we kind of get into that, just want to make sure that we've tapped into all of those different areas that you were wanting to discuss tonight.
Mm-hmm. I think we've touched on everything in every direction that we could possibly touch on it.
Yeah.
I think we've touched on all things, and you did a nice job of summarizing. I think that we could probably talk about this for hours.
We could.
There's so much behind it. From a mental health, from a psychological. I always say when I'm teaching the class, exercise is 100% physical and 100% mental. because yes, we have our physical component, but it is there's a lot of mental emotions and, there's a whole mental component to exercise as well. So
oh yeah,
I just want to leave it on that too. That's
I
important.
think it's a good idea. And I think the biggest thing that I've taken from this is you just have to start. And I think that's the most important thing. And there's so many golden nuggets today. And I do really appreciate, Jenny, you taking the time with us today. And, if anyone was wanting to try out your classes, how can they do that with you?
Yes. So first of all, it's been fun. Again, we could chat here for hours. This is my favorite thing to talk about. So I have a website. It's bestyouhealthcoaching.ca. Okay. And you can email me anytime at bestyouhealthcoaching@gmail.com.
All right.
Website or by email.
And I will make sure everybody that is in the communication so that you have that and to be able to touch base with Jenny and just ask her some questions, reach out. I know I've known you for like a decade, and anytime we've had conversations, they've always been such a supportive environment, and I've been able to be lucky to chat with some of the ladies that you work with, and it's a really nice group of people that you have.
Thank you. Yes. And thank you for saying that, because I'm always here to answer questions anytime about anything, so anytime, if you have any question about exercise, regardless of what it is, feel free to reach out.
All right. Well, I guess leaving these individuals with a call to action, what would you like to make sure that they are doing, or what should they know about you and your business?
If I can say one thing to wrap it up, I want people to take time for themselves. And we hear this, and I don't want to throw out the word self-care. I know it is, but I really encourage you to prioritize yourself and make time so you can fill that cup, because we can't show up as our best self unless we're finding what that is that fills our cup. So yes, I could ask you to go out and walk for 5 minutes, or check out the website, which of course I would love for you to do, but I really want you to prioritize yourself, especially during this time.
Yeah, so important. And it may sound like a bit of a cliche, but sometimes we just need to hear it from those that care.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you so much again, Jenny, for joining us. And it is Jess, your life and transition coach through your inner vitality. And please keep all your feedback coming, because it's guests like Jenny that we have on the show because of that feedback and what you're looking for and what type of support you're needing. It's time to take time for yourself. My slogan is, it's your time. So let's take some time today to plan and also just start.